Hello and welcome to the Fire Management Assistant Grants Program webinar series presented by FEMA's Training, Design, and Development section. This is part 2, the Declaration Request Process. This presentation of the Fire Management Assistant Grants Program, otherwise known as FMAG, is intended as an overview, and throughout the presentation you will be directed to other areas where additional information will be provided, including the FMAG Policy Guide, the CFR, our Code of Federal Regulations, and the Stafford Act. The FMAG slide presentation consists of 5 parts. Part 1 is an introduction to the Fire Management Assistant Grants Program. Part 2, the declaration process, including submitting a declaration request processing, and the declaration criteria. Part 3, grant management and the roles and responsibilities. Part 4, FEMA's general overall eligibility considerations. Part 5, FEMA's eligibility consideration based on the categories of work. Again, this is part 2 of a 5-part series, the declaration process. The objectives of part 2 are to describe procedures, requirements, and identify the forms applicable to the declaration process and identify roles and responsibility of personnel involved. The Fire Management Assistant Declaration Process is initiated when a state or territory submits a request for assistance to the FEMA Regional Administrator at the time a threat of a major disaster exists. Local governments and tribes cannot submit a Fire Management Assistant grant. Tribes will submit a Fire Management Assistant grant request through the governor of the appropriate state, and the entire process is accomplished on an expedited basis, and a FEMA decision is rendered within a matter of hours. Additional information on the declaration process can be found in the FMAG Policy Guide in Chapter 2 on page 4. While all 4 of the following criteria from 44 CFR Section 204.21 are considered when evaluating a request for an FMAG declaration, the criteria are considered in order of descending priority during the evaluation process of a threat of a fire or fire complex. They include a threat to lives and improved property, including threats to critical facilities, infrastructure, and critical watershed areas. Also, the availability of state and local firefighting resources, the high fire danger systems as indicated by the nationally accepted indices, and the potential economic impact. Here we have a graphic of the declaration process, which begins when the governor or governor's authorized representative, or GAR, submits verbal declaration request to FEMA's Fire Regional Point of Contact. FEMA's Fire Regional Point of Contact records the requested information on the FMAG Declaration Request Decision Checklist and contacts FEMA's Regional Point of Contact for input. The declaration request is forwarded through FEMA's regional chain of command to FEMA's Regional Point of Contact for an approval or a denial determination. If the request is approved, FEMA's Fire Regional Point of Contact informs the state of the approval and sends a summary email of the approved facts for the Regional Administrator and FEMA headquarters. The declaration unit responds to the email to provide a fire declaration number. If the request is denied, FEMA's Fire Regional Point of Contact informs the state of the denial, sends a summary email of the denial facts to the Regional Administrator, and reminds the state of their option for appeal. The following is a summary of key stakeholders' roles and responsibilities related to the declaration process, and additional information will be found in Chapter 2, page 8 of the FMAG Policy Guide. We will not discuss these roles in details at this time, as the information is covered throughout the remainder of the unit. So let's talk about the state. The governor or GAR is responsible for submitting a fire declaration request. The request should be submitted by telephone to the regional FMAG staff. Following a phone request, the governor or GAR must complete the request for Fire Management Assistant Declaration form and submit it to the Regional Administrator no later than 14 days after the date of the initial phone request. FEMA's region, the regional office, will establish a means of communication and point of contacts that are available around the clock, as well as regional FMAG staff to receive the declaration request and obtain the necessary information from the state for the declaration request. FEMA's fire duty liaison is responsible for verifying the request completeness, requesting an assessment of the fire from the principal advisor, and forwarding the complete request to the regional administrator. FEMA's regional administrator is responsible for evaluating and either approving or denying the declaration request. The principal advisor completes the principal advisor's report and provides it to the regional FMAG staff and is responsible for providing technical assistance to the FEMA region on analysis of the declaration request. FEMA's headquarters is responsible for facilitating consistency between the FEMA regions on declaration request processing, providing declaration training if requested, and entering certain declaration data into the electronic tracking and management systems. For FEMA to apply the evaluation criteria in 44 CFR Section 204.21, the following information, if available, should be included in both the verbal and written request. The size of the fire, typically provided in acres. The name, location, and population of the communities threatened by the fire. Number of primary and secondary residences and businesses threatened by the fire. Also note that the monetary value of the residences and business threatened by the fire is not accounted for, only the number of residences and businesses. Also, the distance of the fire to the nearest communities, the number of persons evacuated to date due to the fire, current and predicted 24-hour weather conditions, and the degree to which state, local resources are committed to the fire and other fires in or on federal, state, or local jurisdiction. So the FMAG Declaration Request Decision Checklist supports the declaration request process by providing a structured, consistent format that FEMA personnel can use to capture declaration request information and process the request. The checklist is divided into two separate sections of fire event information and FEMA determination. Individual data fields in the fire event information section include the name of the fire complex, the county, state, or tribe, the date the fire started, and the total acres burned, and the cause of the fire. Additional evaluation factors include communities threatened and population, the numbers of persons evacuated, whether mandatory or voluntary, number of residences and businesses threatened. Primary residence and secondary residence would include the percentage. Also, the threat to facilities, including buildings, roads and bridges, infrastructure, utilities, recreation, and equipment. The threat to resources, which includes watersheds, irrigation, flood control, fishing streams and spawning sites, wildlife, environmental and cultural resources, and the economic injury. Additional individual data fields in the fire event information section include weather, the effects including wind direction, temperature, the humidity, the fire behavior, fire forecast for the next 24 hours in a burn period, the state and local burn bans if applicable, where the burn bans are in effect, and resources committed. The jurisdictions include federal land, state and private lands, and tribal lands, and what percentage of the fire is burning on each. To further support their declaration requests, the state may provide additional documentation, including fire severity maps, geographic, topographical, or land assessment maps. Also, the Incident Command System Form 209 is the incident status summary. An example of the IS Form 209 is available on the FEMA website. Also, the Principal Advisor and Geographical Area Coordination Centers may also be a source of additional information. So the state must complete and submit Form FF 104-FY-21-166 the Request for Fire Management Assistant Declaration as part of their declaration request. They can also make a verbal request, and an electronic copy of this form is available on the FEMA website at the Public Assistance Project Templates and Forms at FEMA.gov. It's also important to remember that the state, not FEMA, is responsible for completing this information. Once a completed declaration package is received by the FEMA Regional Administrator, they evaluate the information and make a determination to approve or deny the declaration request. The Regional Administrator's determination to approve or deny the state's request is based on the conditions that existed at the time of the state's request and whether the fire threatens such destruction as would result in a major disaster. The Regional Administrator considers the information in the following documents: the State Declaration Request, the Principal Advisor's Report, and the FMAG Declaration Request Decision Checklist. The applicable fire danger condition is a key item of information that is evaluated by FEMA when deciding whether to approve a fire declaration request. Evaluation of the fire danger conditions may be accomplished through one or more nationally recognized indices included in the following. So on the slide, we have a list of 6 of those different indices. They are available in the FMAG Policy Guide in Appendix F, the Fire Danger Rating System, where you can find links to each of these websites. On appeal of denied declaration request, the state has one opportunity to appeal the denied declaration request. Appeals must be submitted in writing to the Regional Administrator no later than 30 days from the date of the letter informing the state of the denial. The appeal letter should contain new information unavailable at the time of the original request that, if presented at the time of the state's declaration request, may have altered the original determination. The state may request a time extension to submit the appeal. The extension request must be submitted in writing to FEMA headquarters through the regional office no later than 30 days from the date of the Regional Administrator's notification letter denying the original declaration request. The Regional Administrator will review the appeal, prepare a recommendation, and forward the appeal package to FEMA headquarters. After reviewing the appeal, FEMA headquarters may accept it, reject it, or request additional information needed to make a determination. FEMA headquarters notifies the state of its determination in writing within 90 days of receipt of the appeal or receipt of the additional requested information. And FEMA headquarters decision is filed. A state may also submit a request for an FMAG declaration for a fire complex. Per 44 CFR Section 204.3, a fire complex is defined as 2 or more individual fires located in the same general area, which is assigned to a single incident commander. To qualify for FMAG funding, all fires within the complex must meet those 2 criteria and be approved under the fire declaration. Even though an entire complex may be designated in a declaration request, not all fires within the complex will automatically qualify for FMAG assistance. FEMA, in cooperation with the state, will determine which fires are eligible under the Fire Management Assistant Declaration. If the U.S. Forest Service resources provide firefighting support to an eligible FMAG applicant on a reimbursable basis for a fire complex where not all the individual fires qualify for FMAG assistance, the U.S. Forest Service should be contacted as soon as possible regarding which fires qualify for FMAG assistance so that their firefighting work and cost documentation can be appropriately split between the eligible and ineligible fires. Per 44 CFR Section 204.3, the incident period is defined as the time interval during which the declared fire occurs. The incident period start and end dates are usually not established until the fire is controlled. The regional administrator, in consultation with the GAR and the principal advisor will establish the incident period. The incident period may start on the date of the Fire Management Assistant Declaration or with the initial firefighting actions at the time when the fire threatens such destruction as would constitute a major disaster. Generally, work must be completed during the incident period to be considered eligible for an FMAG funding. However, firefighting work related to pre-positioning, mobilization and demobilization, and minor temporary repairs, as well as emergency work funded under the Stafford Act Section 403, may occur outside the approved period. The funding of pre-positioning, mobilization, and demobilization, minor temporary repairs, and emergency work is discussed further in Part 4 under the FMAG eligibility consideration. The state governor or his representative must sign a FEMA state or FEMA tribal agreement for any FMAG funding to be obligated to the state as a grantee under the declaration. If a state does not have a signed FEMA state agreement in place prior to submitting a declaration request to FEMA, the state should sign one immediately after FEMA has approved the declaration request. A FEMA tribal agreement must be signed by the tribal chairman if a tribal government will serve as the grantee. The FEMA state agreement for the FMAG is a legal binding document that outlines the terms and conditions under which grant funding is provided for fire management assistant declarations and details applicable laws and regulations governing the FMAG. The FEMA state agreement is in effect for 1 calendar year and must be updated annually and should ideally be signed each January before the start of fire season. One advantage of having a current signed FEMA state agreement in place prior to the fire is that the document provides formal authority for the governor's authorized representative to initiate a fire declaration request on behalf of the governor. Absent that authorization, the state could technically be required to have the governor personally initiate the declaration request. If a declared fire or fire complex burns into adjacent counties, the affected counties may be added to the FMAG declaration. To be eligible, the state must provide FEMA with sufficient information to justify assistance for the additional counties. The state must submit the same type of information for the requested add-on counties as was provided to FEMA for the original declaration request. FEMA will evaluate the information provided by the state and decide whether to designate the additional counties. The evaluation is based on the threat of the fire, potential economic impact, weather conditions, and committed and available resources. If the request to add counties is denied, the decision may be appealed using the same process that is established for the appeal of initial Fire Management Assistant Declaration Request denials. So that completes Part 2 of the declaration process. Some of the information covered are the procedures, requirement, and forms applicable to the declaration process. The FMAG policy guide can be found in FEMA.gov. Additional information covered on the roles and responsibility of personnel involved in the declaration process included the state, which submits the fire declaration request, FEMA regions, which receives, processes, and makes a determination on the fire declaration request, the principal advisor, who provides technical assistance to the FEMA region on analysis of the declaration request, and FEMA headquarters, which facilitates consistency between FEMA regions, provides training, and enters declaration data into the electronic tracking system. So up next on Part 3, we'll talk about the grant itself and grant management. So I want to thank you all for watching.
If you are working with any documents used for a FEMA grant, you are responsible for safeguarding personally identifiable information, or PII. PII refers to anything that can be used to directly or indirectly identify an individual. Some examples of PII are names, addresses, social security numbers, and financial account information. This type of information must not be uploaded into Grants Portal or Grants Manager. To report corruption, waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, and/or misconduct, contact the Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General by phone at 1-800-323-8603 or via the website or mailing address listed on the screen now. Procurement requirements are among the most complicated parts of the PA grant process, and noncompliance can result in deobligation of funding. Please make sure that you are following FEMA's procurement guidance for recipients and subrecipients. Federal requirements for procurement and contracting are described in 2 CFR Part 200. The Procurement Disaster Assistance Team, or PDAT, offers some training and tools on their website, www.fema.gov/grants/procurement. For technical assistance with Grants Portal or Grants Manager, you can call the PA Grants Portal Grants Manager hotline at 866-337-8448. National hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. The hotline can also be reached by email at FEMA-recovery-PA-grants@fema.dhs.gov. We have many other recorded webinars and tutorial videos available on our YouTube channel. You can find them by searching for FEMA Grants Portal on YouTube or by navigating to the Support Center in Grants Portal or Grants Manager.
Thank you for watching.